Joe presents Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Hello and you're very welcome to Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby here on Joe together with Guinness. On today's show, Ireland won't be winning a Grand Slam this year, unfortunately. We're going to get stuck into that 32-20 defeat to England. We'll hear from Conor Murray and Joe Schmidt also in their post-match interviews. We'll welcome along Jenny Murphy, who's going to come into the studio and give some in-depth analysis of where it all went wrong. And we'll also look back at the other Guinness Six Nations games. But first, Ireland versus England. And will we all just take... Oh, jeez.
We're crap again.
Yeah, it's that kind of a day, isn't it? It's Sunday afternoon and I don't know, there's just this cloud over the whole country. I was in the train station and people were losing their minds on the phone and giving out. And then on the train all the way up from Limerick to Dublin, everyone was just talking about it and ripping them to shreds, and everyone was talking on the phone. And I've tried to avoid Twitter completely because it's just madness. But I don't know, I think we need to take a breath or just relax a minute now.
We need to get some perspective.
Do you know the scene from Old School where they're having that academic decathlon at the end and they're all trying to win for the fraternity, and they have this cheerleader contest, and Frank the Tank is dressed up in the mascot and he tries to jump through
He puts himself on fire.
He puts himself on fire trying to jump through the loop and he loses them the points for that scene, and then they're in the change rooms afterwards and Luke Wilson is trying to give them a little bit of a pep talk, and he starts talking about composure, and then Frank the Tank starts smashing a chair against the locker rooms and he's like, keep your composure! We gotta keep our composure! That's kind of the way I feel we're all acting at the moment. There's certain people trying to be positive, certain people being negative, but we're all kind of irrational and losing our minds. So we just need to take a breath.
Yeah, we just need to calm down, and I mean, we've been here before. We've lost to England on a number of occasions. It's not the end of the world. Sure, it's not.
Why not let?
I feel like we should be in like sackcloth and ashes in mourning.
Yeah, no, that's the way people are behaving, but
yeah.
not in Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby. This is a house. This is like a safe house where people come today when they're confused and they're lost. They get to come here.
It's a soup kitchen.
It's a soup kitchen, and we'll tell everyone that it's okay.
Yeah.
So we're like a nice mammy, and one of us has to be like a nice mammy, and then the other one has to be Wounded Ireland. So I'll be Wounded Ireland.
It's like I remember one time I was playing mini rugby and I got drenched and it was freezing cold, and I was standing waiting to get picked up by my mum, and she was like 40 minutes late and she arrived. I was like, Mum, where have you been? I'm freezing. All the other boys have been away ages ago. She's like, jump in here, you'll be grand.
You'll be grand.
Getting into the shower in your kit.
Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. He wouldn't let you get changed at the door. Yeah. Oh, that's so... Okay, you be Mother Ireland, and I'm like...
Okay.
Jeez,
are you all right, fellas?
No, I'm not.
What's the matter?
I don't know.
Jeez, what's going on? Have you been diagnosed with something terminal or what?
No.
Hold on. This is really
much worse. It's much worse. It's much worse than that.
What could be so bad? I mean, you're the second best team in the world, are you not?
No, I don't know anymore. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. I'm confused. We lost.
Let's come in here. I'll get you a cup of soup.
So many collisions, and they were shouting at the other lads. They were shouting at them and screaming and jumping up and down. And it was terrifying, yeah.
They're awful mean, England, aren't they?
Yeah.
Stick that wee rug round you there and sit beside the fire, and I'll bring you a wee cup of soup.
Well, we watch Old School. Just sit down. I think that's what everyone in Ireland needs to do, is just sit down and watch Old School with a pal, have a cup of tea, and laugh. We all need a good laugh.
We'll be grand, won't we?
Yeah. What's your favourite scene?
Well, we'll be grand unless we get beat by Scotland next weekend. And you'd be bucked out of Mommy's kitchen. You'd be out in your ear. Listen, I'm gonna look after you this time. But if you lose next week, you're not coming back here.
Old School next week.
No more soup for you.
Should we pick like some old school players just to deflect from this, from actually getting into it?
Who's Frank the Tank?
I was thinking a drunk Donnacha O'Callaghan would be a good Frank the Tank. Like he's normal, but if Dunners was to drink, he'd be mental. So I think he'd be a good Frank the Tank.
So Stringer's the other one who never would have touched a drink, but if he was streaking, he's too ripped for it to be funny. You know how like Jonah Hill.
It's like in the dancing. He's too good at the dancing.
Is he? I haven't seen much of it.
Yeah, he's really good. Whereas
Really?
when Tomas did it, he was crap. So it was hilarious.
Yeah, so I saw Tomas the weekend, and I was asking him what's going on. Like, why are you so crap, and why is Stringer so good?
Yeah.
Just because he's ripped, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Probably.
But yeah, Jonah Hill, when he was fat, he was funny, and he gets slim, and he's not funny anymore. So Stringer, if you get yourself fat, you'll be funnier.
Okay. Suppose we better get into it.
Get on with the rugby, will you?
We better talk about it. Ireland versus England. Let's pull the Band-Aid off. 32-20. Where did it go wrong? A lot of people saying England did their homework, won the collisions, outsmarted us, outplayed us all over the park. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we did. It was the one area that I thought that England wouldn't get the better of us because they'd been the verbal grenades this week, and there's been a lot of hype and chat. I thought, right, Eddie Jones is just getting the boys up for it. So physically, I thought they were going to be at it, and they certainly were very physical, but they were quite streetwise and quite smart as well. Slade's try, from the scrum, kind of summed it up. Ireland were looking to come quite hard, or maybe they were kind of dumbing to come hard and they were going to come off, but I thought the scrum was reset, and Johnny was sitting in behind the scrum, and he kind of swept in and got wider than he would, and then he was obviously going to come straighter and harder than he would. And the scrum got reset, and I think, who was it on that side? It was Owen Farrell, and then he hit Slade, might have been. I think he looked up and saw that and thought, right, they're going to come hard here, just whip it across. Wow. Johnny may have been in space. That was just one example. There was a few other. England were really switched on.
Yeah, from the get-go, they went out. I think most people have been drawn the conclusion that because they won the collisions and they won the fight, that was, you can't win a game without winning those collisions, which I don't necessarily agree with. I still think, if a team come out and they're worked up and they're firing like England were. I mean, they were making mistakes. They were ill-disciplined, and they didn't really necessarily get on top in those first 20 minutes. They were just really in Ireland's face, and I think we could have taken more advantage of it. I do think we got the game plan wrong, essentially, or we didn't adjust anyway.
I thought we tried to at half-time. Johnny tried to start putting a few little dinks and trying to keep them a bit honest, and there was one he put across, and then it ended up being O'Mahony on the wing, so it came to nothing. There was another little chip through, kind of came to nothing. But I think it was probably the right idea, trying to take a little bit of sting out of their line speed. They were just coming up and smashing boys. Mako Vunipola was ending Tag. Like, when do you see Tag get hit that hard? A few other guys, James Ryan. I mean, for 12 months, I've never seen him get as much kind of physical abuse as he got at the weekend there. They were on fire. They missed their dominant tackles. A stat came up, I can't remember exactly what it was, but they had way more dominant tackles than Ireland, but they missed 3 times as many tackles as Ireland.
Go away.
Yeah, so that
flying so much.
Yeah. But I think
that
that kind of summed up. It was almost like I think it was all based on their defence, right? They obviously showed a little bit of nous and smarts in attack with the ball in hand, but it was based on their defence, I thought, and it was almost like an Ireland performance whenever they've got a chip in their shoulder, like whenever England came over a couple of years ago, hunting a Grand Slam, and Ireland were just looking to spoil the party, and they were just so up for it because it's England, the old enemy. It just looked like England. It just looked like guys were getting on their feet and just getting up and smashing boys, and that kind of intensity that they brought in defence was almost like one of those occasions where Ireland have got up for it in the past, and we kind of just didn't quite match it.
Yeah, I think England play their best game in years, and they probably won't play that well again for a while, as well. They'll probably play close to it because they're on fire now, but so you have to take that into consideration, that okay, Ireland didn't play particularly well, but England were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we still were thereabouts, like after 60 minutes. You know, when I look at that game, I look at the collisions, and that we didn't win the collisions, but then the kicking comes straight after that. And I thought our tactics were strange with kicking. We weren't kicking contestables like we normally do. Like the first kick of the game, Murray had after 30 seconds, he put it into touch, which was quite unusual.
A lot of our exits we kicked to touch.
Yeah.
It was strange. I was surprised to see that as well.
Yeah, and then they took a quick line out, and all of a sudden it's a score.
Yeah.
Whereas normally our way of going into a game would be set up, have a good few chasers for the kick. Murray puts in a box kick in the first minute. We force them into an error. We get the ball, and then that's how we get ourselves into the game. Then we push them back. We put in those grubbers. We put them under pressure. But we had very little of that in the game. I think England basically did exactly what we did to them last year.
Yeah.
You know, last year when we went to Twickenham, Murray or Sexton put up that Gary Owen in the first 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And was it Daly knocked it on, and Carney scored?
Ringrose, was it?
Or Ringrose scored.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. Carney went up with him. And then we just kind of turned the screw and just played pressure. And England started doing that to us. Anytime they didn't play any ball in their own half. Anytime they get into our half, it was a little bit of phase play, which we were actually capable of managing, I think, for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then just grubbers in behind, which we weren't able to deal with because we had 14 players up flat. And and then any time we did that, we actually got a return from it, but we only did it once or twice in the game, whereas they did it 7, 8 times. So
our phase play shape looked reasonably good at times as well, especially early on. As the game got on, it looked like England kind of got bigger in defence, and we kind of got into our shell a little bit, maybe. I don't know. But a couple of times we went out the back. You know, that kind of tucked kind of sweep pass to the sweeping back out the back. We did that quite well, and we got overlaps, and we got into a position where we could have threatened them. We just didn't. We just weren't quite as clinical when we got those opportunities. The few of them that we did. There's still a lot of decent stuff from Ireland.
Yeah. Well, those ones, they're the ones where I would have been putting the kicks in. That's where, you know, when you're getting the ball to second and third receiver, and then like Daly was for them and like Slade was for them, then you put those kicks through. Yeah. And you flood the line and you put pressure on the 15.
Yeah, they did it that one time for Elliot Daly came up and we put it through. Can't remember. It might have been Gary.
Yeah. It went through May's legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we might have scored. I think that could have been a closer on the try for Healy's try, but and then also from their box kicks, they were getting our box kicks when Murray was kicking, and their shepherding of our player back was incredible. Like they'd 5 or 6 players that were all bunched together and stopping anyone getting close to May or getting any kind of a hard hit on them or even getting up to compete. Yeah. And whereas we weren't doing that at all. Like Henshaw and the 2 wingers were just having players flood through all the time on them and competing
and
one
they
on
were
one.
going up. England were going up, and they weren't trying to secure the ball themselves. They were just going up with one hand, and just trying to pat the ball back. That's a nightmare, because then if you're receiving that, then the only way for you to receive that ball cleanly is to go 2 hands GA style instead of, Joe calls it the cradle, but you just can't get high enough if he's going one hand. So I always think that's not fair if they do that. So I'm like, if you're going to stop me catching the ball and you've no interest in catching the ball yourself,
slapping it,
don't be unfair. It's not in the spirit.
Hey! Yeah, there wasn't a huge amount of spirit going around on Saturday. There was so much roaring and shouting, and it was mad. I don't know what to make of that. Sinclair had a few moments where he was like, I think Garces was even giving out to him, like, just stop, man.
Stop shouting.
Yeah.
I can't hear himself think.
Bizarre. I know Munster have, and a few other teams have psychologists that encourage them to, especially when they're away from home, to get a lot more vocal, because to create your own atmosphere when you're away from home, teams normally would go into themselves a little bit more. So they're encouraged to celebrate moments a little bit more and make their own noise, and I'd imagine that's what England were doing there.
Well, they did that in the Lions quite a bit. Sinclair and Itoje, I remember kind of jumping up and down and patting each other in the back and kind of making a big song and dance of a turnover.
Yeah.
It's
weird.
It has the desired effect, though. It kind of does wind you up a bit. You're playing against that.
Yeah.
There was a great wee moment of honesty from Romain Poit as well. Did you see the try where Vunipola went 2 movements?
Yeah.
And Garces said to Poit, "Did you see that there? I think it was 2 movements." And Poit goes, "I did not see." He's like, "Je ne sais pas."
I do not speak.
Yeah. Yes. Right enough.
Yeah, look, there's a few people complaining about Garces as well, but I thought it was grand.
I thought he was grand as
Yeah,
well.
that was a tough game to ref. But yeah, look, I think
that's not a roaring endorsement. I thought he was grand.
that's always fine for me.
Yeah.
When a ref is grand,
Yeah.
it's just like, he didn't annoy me or anything like that. It's fine.
Didn't notice him
I didn't.
much.
Yeah, I didn't want to say, well, ref was brilliant, or it's
Yeah.
just like he's involved too much.
Yeah.
Then,
If anything,
just get on with it.
that Vunipola one I thought could have been given easy enough. The 2 movements.
Yeah,
It could have. I think it could have.
yeah. There was one in the Scottish match as well, or where there was double movement. So I think it's obviously they're.
Oh,
they've
it's
been
one of
very
these
strict on
things.
it. Yeah.
It's one of these, isn't
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
They always do this, don't they?
Yeah.
Right, we're coming down hard on forward passes this week.
yeah. Obviously not.
There's a new decree.
yeah. So that's probably why. But I think I think to end out the points on the kick-in and the and England winning the collisions, I just think Ireland haven't got too much to worry about in certain ways. That bread and butter that they'd normally be so good at, the kick chase, the shepherding of and traffic around English players coming on to their kicks, there's stuff that we're normally very good at and very easily fixed. So I think we can. That's something that will improve pretty quickly, and then just playing a little bit better field position, I think it would have been a different game if we didn't try and play as much within our own half. I think it would have been a different game, and then, that's one way to negate their collision and dominance and kind of take the pressure off yourself rather than running into a brick wall all the time. It's turn those big boys and put them on the back foot.
I wonder I know the point you're touching on there about the contestables. Why was Murray kicking the touch and exiting kicking the touch rather than putting the contestable up? I wonder did Dev and Pete and James Ryan, I wonder did they reckon they could have a go at English line out?
Yeah, I do think that.
Maybe. I don't know. And then England kind of outsmarted them with the tempo line out a couple of times.
The quick one was that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Give a lot of credit to England for that. It was such a sharp call, and then Farrell then switched straight back down the blind side, and Tuilagi was involved twice in 30 seconds with 2 big carries, and then the pass that he made, or Farrell made, that caught Earlsey out. That was an unbelievable pass.
It was a gamble, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Just so it all happened so quickly, which was a lot of points in the game. It was quite frantic. It was hard for anyone to settle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Settle and just go, hang on a second, we need to maybe slow this whole game down a little bit.
Yeah. But we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Listen, we'll get warmed up by the fire. And
yeah, have another cup of tea. Put the kettle on again there.
I wonder what if Joe will be like. Listen, have a wee cup of coffee. We'll be grand next week.
It's only Scotland. It's only Scotland. We're the second best team in the world, aren't we?
Yeah, we are still the second best team in the world. Pat?
I don't know.
We're there.
Still second best.
If we lose to Scotland next week, we'll drop to 3rd. But we're still second for now.
Who will be second then?
England.
Yeah.
Feckers.
So. Excuse me. I think we have a little bit of audio from Conor Murray from his post-match interview. Will we give that a little play here and discuss?
Yeah, we'll have a listen to that now.
I thought England were really good, especially in the air as well. They cleaned up in the air. We struggled to get in the contest today, and they took the advantage out of that as well. They kicked really well as well. So overall, we were fairly beaten, I think.
Were you a little bit surprised by how high they did press up on each throughout the game?
No, I think they're top side, and they stopped their momentum today, and they put in really good hits out there. A little bit of a struggle to get front foot ball, but at times, like I said, we thought we weathered the storm and got back into it. But they stayed in the fight, and again, I think they were just a bit more pumped than we were today for whatever reason. We'll go through with a fine-tooth comb and see why that was. We had a great week of preparation, 2 weeks of preparation, and for whatever reason we were a little bit off it today. And they're top side, and they took advantage, and I think they fairly deserved their win. So it's just disappointing from Ireland.
What is Joe like in the week after a loss? Is he the same, or is he a bit more harsher? And are you in for a tough week?
No, we're well used to I think the players are going to drive it as much as Joe and the coaching staff. We're bitterly disappointed. We're a group that demand high standards, and we didn't meet that this evening. And again, all credit to England. They were good today. We were just a little bit off, and whatever we have from the coaches, they'll review the game and give us solutions and things we can work on. But I think as a playing group, we're gonna be honest with ourselves and drive it ourselves, because we want to get this back on track.
But Conor, how damaging is it to the confidence? You said the preparation was good. The standards you've had in the last year and a half. So there's an element that it's almost a surprise that today happened. I mean, how damaging could that be to confidence?
I think we're a very realistic group, and we don't get ahead of ourselves. And after a defeat like that, well, it looks quite bad. It's small things that will probably need fixing and whatever. But I think the reason we're just, again, I keep going back to it. Sorry if I keep doing, but we're just a bit off. We were just a little bit flat. And at the start, we gave England with that. They overthrew with the line out and got momentum and eventually scored off it. That was an easy or quick way to give them a kind of front foot into the game, and they grew with that, and we battled back well. We don't go away that easy. So we'll regather and go again next week.
Okay, that's Conor Murray there. I always feel sorry for players in those situations, because they don't know what to say. They're trying not to say anything really, just kind of talking waffle.
I just get me through this, get me home, get me back to the Shelburne.
Like and those little white slippers. Yeah, I mean, a few interesting things where he said the English team probably came at it with more intensity than the Irish team. And then we also had a Twitter question today that was, why do Ireland seem to start slow in the Six Nations? In the last 4 Six Nations, we have only won 1 game, we've drawn 1 and lost 2. These are our first game. Sorry, in the opening game. Yeah. So, in your experience, was there ever? Did you feel more nerves, or can you relate to that?
I don't know, to be honest. Honestly, I have no idea what the answer is. It's not enough of a sample size for 4 games, really, 4 examples to say there's a certain trend. They just got beat by a better side at the weekend, and I think Murray touched on it a few times. They were pumped up for it, and they were probably pumped up to kind of back up some of Eddie Jones's chat this week, and Eddie Jones got the best out of them. They were so physical, so intense, smashing boys left, right, and centre, and then. I just think it's hard to compete with that. Whenever you can't quite get a gain line, it just shows the value. If you can't get over the gain line or can't get quick ball, no matter how good you are, how clever your plays are, it's very, very difficult to stretch a team.
Another point that Eddie Jones made in his post-match interview was that England haven't even started their attack coaching yet, basically. Yeah. Which I thought was really interesting, because to be fair to England, they had a brilliant game. But when I looked at Eddie Jones's Japan team in the last World Cup, their ability to offload and to create little 2-on-1s, they were brilliant. The Japanese team, they were an unbelievable team to watch, and how expansive they played the game, and that was clearly down to Eddie Jones. So when he says something like that about that they haven't even really started on where they want to go with attack-wise, we saw little snippets of it with Farrell and Daly and Slade with these little backdoor passes. And a lot of.
Is he saying that they haven't done any attack practice?
He said they haven't really begun to. I don't know where they want to go. They're only starting where they want to get to. So, I just thought it was really interesting to say that, because they are, up until the other day, they've been quite predictable in how they play the game. They just batter teams down. But I think that's where Ireland struggled with the other day, is that they came with a different game plan, and we couldn't really adapt to it. So
Yeah.
look, it's interesting to see where England will go with this.
They had a good balance. They played with whenever it was on, and they threw those like that kind of tricky pass from Owen Farrell that set up the first try.
Yeah.
They were happy to throw those, take a chance with those, and they paid off. In their half, they were fairly pragmatic. Just send it long, little dinks, little contestables. They weren't playing that much rugby in their own half, so I think that balance worked quite well for them.
And then the Irish selection, I suppose that's a big one. Robbie Henshaw named the fullback for the first time in a green jersey since his debut against the USA in 2013. Joe Schmidt said Henshaw played there 15 more times than anywhere else in his professional career. But Henshaw has been primarily a centre for the past, 3 seasons? So what's your take? I mean, there's been a lot talked about it.
He made his name initially playing 15 for Connacht and tearing it up and doing really well. So I know playing for Connacht's different to playing for Ireland, of course, but he's more than capable of playing 15 at this level, no problem. And it's an oversimplification to say that the kicks that were being put through and him, getting bundled into or backwards or getting hit hard a few times is his issue or his problem. It's a back three in general, probably, to be fair. Your back three, even Sexton's in the backfield sometimes, Murray's in the backfield sometimes, and between the 5 of them, they got to manage that or maybe communicate a little bit better. There was one occasion where it was off, England were attacking in around halfway, and they were attacking off a left-hand line out, and or it might have been slightly, it might have been on Ireland's 10 actually, and Earls then went in to the defensive line inside 10.
That was very strange.
Yeah, it's quite far out to do that, but regardless, I think that's fine. If everybody communicates, that's fine, if that's what your strategy is. But it happened quite late, and it looked like maybe Henshaw didn't get the nod.
I think Murray should have dropped there. I think that's what Murray missed the jump.
So either Murray covers up till maybe the inside post, or maybe just 20 metres in, just past the 15, and maybe Henshaw slightly more in the midfield rather than being kind of in behind Jacob. So, but that I mean, to just say that's Robbie's fault. Yeah. There's so much more going on, and there's so much. Even it could be just it's not even necessarily.
He's still got to close the gate on the open side.
He did
he's
well.
Got to close
He's
got to get behind Stockdale and get last defender.
Yeah, because as a winger, I really value the fullback being across. I'm always at the fullback. Please help me, because I want to get up. I want to make reads, and it's a way more risky read if the 15 isn't kind of backing you up a little bit, and Robbie did really well tidying that up eventually. There was it's just so much more complicated than people think.
And also Earlsey got such a big knock after 20 minutes. He was clearly struggling and limping, so he's not covering the ground. And even you could see on defensive kicks that they were receiving, he was struggling to get in the way. He was struggling to block any players getting to Henshaw. He was struggling to chase any of Murray's kicks. So he's probably doing.
He was digging in as well, wasn't he? Because it was a hip pointer he had, and I know those are painful. Those really impact your running and your ability to get through workload. And Earlsey's tough. He rolled up his sleeves and got on with it as long as he could. And then obviously I think it was half time he came off. But I bumped into it. Well, I didn't bump into it. Some fella accosted me on the train, and he said, "Geez, that was terrible yesterday, wasn't it?" And he goes. He goes, Henshaw at 15, right or wrong? And I went, well,
the thumb.
I went,
the gladiator thumb.
Well, I mean, and he goes, right or wrong? It's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? It's just, there's so much more going on, and it's just very, very oversimplified.
Yeah, it's interesting. Joe Schmidt in his post-match interview was kind of, he praised him a lot, praised Robbie a lot for how hard he worked, and that he was under a lot of pressure, and he was covering so much ground. And I went back and watched it this morning, and I have to agree with him. He did actually have a good game. He just, again, when England were kicking, they had 4 or 5 guys jumping against him, and he was on his own with no traffic blocking players going up against him. And whereas the opposite for England, they had 5 or 6 guys supporting.
You can't get near them. There's no line in to attack the ball.
Yeah, so look, it's it'd be interesting to see how the decisions go next week, and whether Rob Kearney might come back in, or Conway, Larmer, or Addison, I assume Joe will stay strong and stick with it, but we'll wait and see. Other calls that people were talking about were, whether Johnny Sexton was fit enough, having not played in 5 weeks.
That's hindsight chat.
Yeah, you always have to play. You're the second team in the world. You always have to play your best player.
Yeah.
He did. I felt kind of a bit unfair for Johnny though. He was struggling. Like I thought he hadn't played in 5 weeks. There was a lot of pressure being put on him. England were like running down his throat all day, and he defended quite well. But I just thought he wasn't really as sharp as he normally is. So could have brought Joey off the bench a little bit earlier, or I even thought Cooney could have come off the bench a bit earlier. But I suppose they still were in it after 60 minutes. So it is a tough decision to make.
The front row that came off the bench, I thought made a big impact actually, because and to be fair, I thought Kane and Tig both had good games, and Rory as well. They had big games, but then they were just getting, there's so much traffic and they were getting so many collisions that Killer came off the bench, did really well. Porter did well. Porter, friend of the show, did well. And then Sean Cronin did well as well, set up the try at the end. So
all right, nice one. We still have the rugby roundup to come, as well as your Twitter questions and Guinness Made of More Player of the Weekend. But next up, we are joined by Ireland's women's star, Jenny Murphy, to take a look at some of the big moments from Ireland's game with England. And to take us there, we'll hear a little bit from Ireland head coach Joe Schmidt on the night when he admitted his team got a reality check.
Joe, tough night there, but was there a few players for you that kind of emerged with credit, that you were happy with their performance?
Yeah, again, I thought our scrum was good, our line-out was good. Those set pieces that we need to be good, they were very solid. I did think Robbie worked incredibly hard. Bundy got involved in a lot of play. Gary Ringrose, I thought a defining moment could have been his tackle, where we got that turnover ball and we didn't make the most of it on the other end. We lost it. We got the ball back, and forced a penalty. But at that stage, if we could have scored, I think it could have made the game 17-all. And for all the dominance physically that England had delivered, it puts you back in the game, and that's how fickle it is. So. Yeah, there were some good performances. A couple of guys off the bench. As I said, Quinn. I thought Sean O'Brien came on and did well. It's tough. Jordan Lama coming on in such a big game, and he will learn from that midfield scrum where they did get enough space on the edge to get that kick away. And I think that's what we've got to keep doing. We've got to keep learning. And I think people forget the youth of some of these guys. I know Jacob Stockdale was player of the tournament last time, but he's still a very young man in terms of international rugby, and so is Jordan Lama. So I think those guys are going to keep learning, and we've got to challenge them to keep getting better, because you're coming up against world-class players. Johnny May, he is experienced, he knows what he's doing, he's got great speed. So that's a huge challenge for a guy like Jordan Lama. And that's what you want, but more often than not, you want that challenge to come out with a positive result. And that will be a challenge to Jordan's confidence, to all our confidence, that result tonight. Because I guess you get used to having that winning feeling, and it's pretty hollow right now.
The last one. Joe, is that a reality check, though, about the physicality that will be required to have success at the World Cup?
Yeah, that is a reality check. That's how it's going to be, and that's why England are they're a big team, and I thought they played really well tonight. It's hard to take anything away from England. The intensity they brought to the game. You mentioned that line out right at the start, but it was more a kind of simmering physical intensity that they just collectively delivered, which made it a fairly suffocating place to be out on that pitch tonight, I think.
Right, welcome along to Leinster and Ireland Centre, Jenny Murphy. How are you feeling? Are you as deflated as the rest of us?
I've gone to YouTube and I've searched children falling down,
Right.
and it's helped. It has helped, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's either that or like puppies.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone with more humour.
Children
Yes.
falling down.
Yeah.
I check that out. It's good stuff.
You've got children. Do you just push them over sometimes?
Yeah. Every time Ireland lose, I push my kids over. Take one for the team.
Andrew, are you handing off the children again?
Laughing at them.
Yeah.
Well, you're very welcome to the show where we're trying to, I don't know, are we trying to perk up Ireland? Is it working?
Yeah.
Or are we just making it worse?
Like, we lost.
Yeah.
England were very good. We weren't as good as them. Like, Scotland, be grand.
Be grand, won't it?
Be grand.
But it's not the end of the world, basically.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Like, there was some good patches there. I think England were just so up for it from the get-go. And then, obviously, when you've got a few scores and you're chasing the game, it just makes it difficult, and trying to, like, force some things, and they didn't work out, and Slade and a few others pounced on that, and it just opened up the scoring a little bit.
I was commentating for BBC Radio Ulster, about 20 listeners, so it's great, no pressure at all. And in around 65, 70 minutes, Ireland were throwing the ball about and they were going nowhere, and they were really struggling because they had to keep the ball, they had to try something. And I said, I think like the connection kind of went, and I made the point, I bet you we're going to see an intercept here, or someone picking up the ball. And you couldn't hear it. No. And I didn't want to be a slave went over. I was like, that's what I was saying whenever you couldn't hear me there. I knew that was going to happen. Like,
Oracle.
Yeah. And I didn't get the credit I deserved. But
You cursed us, though.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Well, it was my fault.
Yeah.
So not only am I not getting the credit, I'm getting the blame.
So if any of those 20 people out there listening, oh no, they didn't hear it.
No one heard it, it's just me.
Okay.
You're going to have to take my word for it.
In your experience playing against England, Eddie Jones said that he wanted to see England acting more like England, being loud and in your face and brutish. Have you come across that in your experience?
Every time we play against England, it's always hugely physical, and even at the weekend now, the girls had like a very tough game against professionals, and it was kind of very similar in terms of that strength that you always get. And as well as that, now because Ireland are doing so well and we are the team to beat, every team raises their game and needs to play the best rugby in order to get that win. Like, that's just what happens when you're ranked number 2 in the world. I think it's a good thing. Everyone has to play their best to get a result against us. That's only going to make us better. Unfortunately, we didn't come on the right side of it at the weekend. But I think we're more than capable of bouncing back, and a lot of people are like, holy crap, like what? And it's like, this is fine. Sometimes it's such a cliche thing, but like all those losses and setbacks, you learn and retain and get so much more from it that I don't see Scotland. I think we're going to come out with a win in Murrayfield, which is a tough place to go. But we can still win the championship.
Mm. It's the reaction to when we beat the All Blacks was, we are World Cup champions in waiting, and now we're back to where we were in the 90s, and the truth is kind of somewhere in between the two extremes. I think we're just so reactionary, aren't we?
Yeah, one game. You're playing against the second or third best team in the world. There's always going to be someone's going to be a loser, someone's going to be a winner. So.
Losers.
As a centre, did you enjoy the midfield battle? Anything there that?
Oh yeah, I thought like Ringrose very good. He's just didn't have an awful lot to work with, but Tuolangi and Slade were outstanding. Like I think that's Tuolangi's first Six Nations start since 2013. And utilised him from the get-go. He's such a physical guy that even as like a decoy runner, you still have to be 100% committed to that tackle, because if it's a half-hearted one, like, he's kind of away. So we saw that in the first try. Farrell, a lovely cut-out pass, Tuolangi, I think 2 others behind him, and it just got sent to... It got sent to...
Daly.
Daly, and then it was a simple, like, May at pace. But that's like... when you've got someone like Tuolangi running down, you have to be like, oh, I have to get the man. And he carried really well. And they just utilised that midfield. Like a lot of the time they had Farrell getting the ball and Mako, a lot of the front rows actually were kind of running that shoulder ball to hit, or else you could hit kind of, I think it was at one stage, there's like Jamie George was out wide and Slade was running that sweep line all the time. So you could either get a pop and a strong carry, or wide and a big strong carry, or then a little sweep out the back with Slade running through. And he was like some really nice kicks in the backfield as well. I thought like he was so underrated for years, like outstanding with Exeter. So it wasn't nice seeing him do really well at the weekend, but like,
yeah, he's slick out.
The
pass for the try off the scrum where they were talking about whether it be a forward pass or if he was potentially ahead of
the kick,
of the kicker. He may have been ahead of the kicker. I think with the rules changed now that the momentum of the pass can go forward.
The pass was grand. I thought the kick was fine as well.
Yeah,
to be honest.
it was, but the pass was so slick. Like to take it at that pace and fire it, so hard to defend against. And I also thought that Aki had a pretty solid game.
Yeah.
I love when he steps in first receiver, and he's a hard runner as well. He can carry so strongly, and brilliant defender. But then he's a playmaker as well. You know. So I don't think they'll change anything there going into next weekend. I still think I don't think Henshaw will go in 12. I think there's a lot of people calling for that, but I think Aki is where
he had a really tough job. Like that was tough. And he did fine. Like again, like you were saying, he carries with pace. He uses that bit of footwork to get around as well. So like,
I think he's the foundation of a lot of what Ireland do.
He is, and he's still.
He's gotten awards from this show.
He has, yeah. He's got.
He's very couch.
Unsung hero.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Everybody talks about Henshaw, Ringrose, and yes, there's a lot of quality there, but Aki's played so much rugby for Ireland and he's never put a foot wrong. He's always done really well. In fact, people were talking about the narrative was kind of Henshaw being picked ahead of Carney, but I think it was actually Bundy, Aki being picked ahead of Carney, and finding some way to keep him in the team.
Yeah, a lot of decisions to be made going into the Scottish game next weekend. It looks like CJ Stander will be out. His brother-in-law, Reek Neethling, who's a former South African...
what's his name?
Reich or YK. Not a vowel in sight.
Named after the guy from Game of Thrones.
He's a little bit more impressive. This guy's a few Olympic gold medals for swimming or something. He said in a Twitter or Instagram comment that CJ played 62 minutes with a fractured cheek and eye socket. He looked pretty nasty when he came off the pitch. We haven't heard anything from the Irish camp yet, but looks like he'll be out. Toner could be out as well. Earlsey, obviously with that knock, he could be a doubt. So what you think? Sean O'Brien did brilliantly when he came on, right?
Yeah. Sean did it, I would have thought.
I think, Sean, he's such a smart player as well. He's not just like big, strong, like he's got kind of everything you want a back row to have as well. And like you hear from camp, he's got a big kind of coaching head as well. So
yeah, he came on the pitch and he was giving a lot of messages and speaking a lot. He was quite vocal, which I thought was great. They needed it at that point. So great to see him back. He had a huge impact. David Toner, if he's out, I would say Quinn Rue would be straight in, and then Alton Delan on the Dylan. It's another Fofana.
I actually saw him against playing against Sale Sharks for the Champions Cup a while ago, and he was cracking. There, like I think he won player of the match. Really, really good. Again, just like getting around the park. I think he was on the wing against Ashton at one one time and kind of got the tackle in and stuff as well. So
he's a serious athlete actually.
Yeah,
he gets about the pitch.
Yeah, I mean he did brilliantly when he first came on the scene a few years ago. So there's no doubt he has it. He just probably hasn't gotten a run of form. So
and he's probably a guy who can come off the bench and create a decent impact as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Any other changes? Who wears 15? I think he's going to go at Henshaw again personally.
Yeah.
And then with regards to if Earlsey's out, Larmer probably on the wing. Maybe bring Conway or Addison in on the bench.
I'd like to see Addison.
Yeah.
Just like kind I rate him as well. And then it was like, you got that he can slot into 13-2, and there's so much, like sometimes it can be a pain in the ass for players to be like that utility, you can play here, and then you just don't get selected at all because you cover so much. But I'd rate.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him get another opportunity. in
Oh, we're
green
big
jersey.
fans of Addison on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny, you're doing well there. Getting the Addison mentions in.
Yeah.
Savage.
Welcome to the team.
We've got obviously a swear jar for our trip to Japan, so that's another few euro into that. Did you see Scotland beat Italy pretty comfortably on Saturday? Blair Kingholm helping himself to a hat-trick. It was a weird one. Italy, do you know the way they do that thing sometimes where they just try and get in the way and slow everything down, and they just drag the game traipsing around. Like they did. Remember the time they did it against England where they did that crazy, where they weren't committing to the rucks. At the weekend they kind of just slowed down all the scrums. The referee was getting really pissed off with them. And actually in the last 20 minutes they started playing a bit of rugby and they scored a few tries. They actually scored 2 or 3 tries in the last 20 minutes. And I think if they'd gone out and played a little bit more, they would have made a better match of it. But Scotland were pretty comfortable. Finn Russell was pulling his strings. He was magic and scored some decent tries.
They just got far enough ahead and then just kind of switched off, did they?
I think so. Yeah, it's probably what happened. But
And the Italian defence was fairly grim at times as
wasn't
well.
it? Yeah.
Like just like little things like I think biting in when there was 2 people covering already, just like real basic stuff that you were like, oh God. Yeah, it was just.
It seems is Mike Catt the backs defence for Italy?
I have no idea.
I think he is, and I was very surprised how they were defending off first phase and lineouts and scrums in the midfield. They were just didn't seem to know what they were doing, who they were taking. So it was pretty easy when a team like Scotland will carve you up. But I think Ireland will obviously be a lot stronger there. In terms of tactics, anything you think they'll change?
I think Ireland have kind of a lot of stuff to do about themselves, never mind kind of specific for Scotland. I think Ireland will just try and just be a little bit more clinical on the edge, maybe play a little bit less rugby in their half. But I don't think there'll be anything to look at Scotland and say, right, let's bring in this or bring in that. I think they'll kind of be more conscious of what they're doing.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, do you remember you were talking about that TV show you watched on Netflix?
Tidying up.
Tidying up. You could use that to how Ireland will prepare for next weekend. So explain what the show is.
So actually, you watched the show a while back, and you were telling me that what's the lady's name?
Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo. So she comes in. She's like a tidying up consultant, a wee Japanese lady, and she says the way to tidy up your clothes is to you pick up every item of clothes and you hug it, and if it doesn't delight you, is that what she said?
Doesn't bring you joy.
It doesn't bring you joy, then you thank it and you buck it in the bin. So I thought, I mean, you're planning to Ireland's setup, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what
the players?
Yeah, yeah.
If Joe Schmidt comes over and hugs someone, they're like, oh no, getting dropped.
Yeah. He's like, after CJ's scan, if CJ's face is broken, he'll just hug him and say, thanks, CJ. Because I thought...
Pull the plug out, whatever machine he's hooked up to in the hospital.
I thought we could, that would be a way of tidying up our house of rugby.
Oh, okay.
So I actually thought, I mean, you're an established... I wouldn't say you're a guest. No, I'm only saying that because I think it'd be awkward talking about you.
Thanks.
But I thought we could hug our guests when they arrive.
Okay.
And if they fill us with joy, then they can be invited back.
They can stay.
But if I don't feel joy,
they have to go.
Yeah, sorry. You have to thank them and then say sorry. You'll not be allowed back.
Is there any that's been on so far that you're like, you're getting a hug, but then I'm releasing you?
Yeah, there's been a few. I mean, very huggable. Jack McGrath, I could hug that guy all day. Porter, cuddly.
Yeah, isn't he?
Very cuddly.
Yeah.
I would imagine they would fill you with joy.
They would.
These two.
Yeah. But you keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
is there any that you'd be like Joe
them
Schmidt,
go.
CJ Sanders style?
It seems very harsh to outline one guest that we want to throw in the bin.
That's actually true. Sorry.
So,
Put a word of warning.
But yeah, Cal Marsh. Only joking, Cal. Only joking, Cal.
Word of warning for anyone coming in here as a guest: just be a good hugger.
Yeah, be cuddly.
Can we hug them at the same time?
Put on some weight. Stringer, if you cuddled him, he'd be too small and ripped. I'd be like, oh, dear, sorry, mate.
Sorry, Peter Stringer. All right, we'll be right back to look at the other games over the weekend, including Ireland's under-20 and women's matches. Right, and you're very welcome back to the House of Rugby Roundup. We've covered Ireland, England, Scotland and Italy, but the championship started with a cracker in the Parisian rain on Friday. France went in 16 points ahead of Wales at half-time and still managed to lose. They've now dropped to 10th in the world. What did you make of that game? I actually thought we saw a bit of France of the old in the first half. They've got those cool, older-looking jerseys like the ones circa 98, 97, 98 with the collar and they looked more cotton. They looked pretty class and they were playing jouet and it was going well, which also brought me to thinking back to that 98, 97, 98 double Grand Slam winning team in which you said you'd do a little bit of...
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of homework, Okay. So again, this was when we were anticipating that Ireland were going to win or back up a Grand Slam. First side to do that since France did it 97, 98. So I look back, in 1997, 2 months after Brive lifted the European Cup, hammering Leicester in the process, France went on to win their first Five Nations Grand Slam in 10 years. In week 4 of the championship, they came back from 20 points to 6 down at Twickenham to get the win. Christophe Lamaison was the hero that day, scoring all the points.
Class.
Remember Lamaison?
I do.
Anyway, I was interested to find
What's
out.
he up to now?
What is he doing?
Can I just say that was like, now I feel like that's how story time at the Trimble house is. It was just like...
Yeah.
I was like,
He just pushes his kids over.
Yeah. Only all the stories I tell my kids will be about me. Anyway, so what is
going on with him these days?
Do you ever hear from Christophe these days?
No, I haven't heard from him in years.
Yeah, well, anyway, so he is doing one of 3 things.
Oh.
And I'll let you
Is this
decide.
quiz? Okay, right, cool.
Yeah, so did Christophe grow up in the Basque region of France and in 2003 turned down a lucrative contract with Saracens in pursuit of a career as a Grand Master of the Basque separatist group ETA? Christophe, when questioned about his career change, was quoted as saying, "Grand Slams are great and all, but it's terrorism for me." So is that what Christophe is
French,
doing now?
French,
so typical.
so typical.
Or did Christophe miss a flight as a result of the Icelandic ash cloud travel disruption in 2010, leading to a chance encounter with a Mormon who converted him to Mormonism? Christophe now wears a suit, a badge and a rucksack, lives in Salt Lake City and makes his living as a backs coach for Utah Warriors, competing in the new professional American Rugby League, MLR. Or is he an accountant?
Mormons are mad, aren't they?
So what do you think?
B?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure. I don't know if he is an accountant or not. I just thought it was the most boring thing I could think of.
You
didn't even look him up, did you?
I did. I looked up his Wikipedia. Couldn't find out anything about him.
So I just
left it
went
off.
with accountant. We'll go with B then. He's a Mormon. Way better. He's a Mormon backs coach for Utah Warriors.
Yeah.
Is that even the name of the team?
It is, yeah.
Is it?
That is true.
It's the one thing that's true.
Yeah.
That's very good, man. I loved him. He was class.
Wasn't he the man?
Yeah.
Did actually turn down the contract with Saracens though in around 2003.
That's why we were confused. That's why initially it was because I was like, I know he's turning that.
It was a half truth.
Yeah, I was like, that's true.
Did he become a terrorist?
You led us down that path.
Yeah. So he turned down that contract and he went to play for a club in Fédéral 2, which is like the fourth league in France. For a few years played amateur rugby, and he could have been playing for Saracens, playing pro, earning a fortune.
I think he did something quite French, like opened a cheese factory or a winery or something like that.
Yeah, an onion farm.
Yeah, an onion farm.
Yeah.
I think he did. I remember something about that.
Garlic, sorry. No, garlic.
Dude, there's something wrong with that.
You were like, yeah, an onion farm. Garlic, sorry.
Jesus. I'm as bad as you. Well, yeah, but they had a little sniff of the old French team for the first half on Friday night, but it fell away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Le choke.
Le choke,
Nice.
yeah. Started off with Huget's fumble on the line, which led to, was it North scored that try as well?
Yeah.
Fair play. That's like chasing a kind of a lost cause-ish. And he came from kind of nowhere as well.
It was a nothing kick.
Yeah.
It was a complete, like, aimless kick just up the middle of the pitch.
Do you feel like slightly sickened when you see another rugby player, regardless of like whether they're on the team you support or not, doing something like that? Like, and it's not like it was a wet day. His elbow kind of popped. I don't know. He was trying to like
skill, like
yeah.
you take
I
it
was
for
just
granted.
like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was gutted for him.
He's a class player as well, Huget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be one of the wingers out there. I think he's probably one of the best wingers around. I think, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. What was worse was the intercept pass in the last 2 minutes from
Fahama.
yeah, it was that guy. Yeah, that was crazy. Absolutely insane. Like,
The camera went like the cameraman wanted to blame Intimac for that. He was the one getting all the attention, and I thought because I'd only seen it once, and I thought it must have been him through the pass, and he was cursing himself and all.
he didn't really react. He could have tackled him, could he? Is that what he was?
Oh, is that what he was?
Because the pass was to Intimac, I think,
Yeah.
so he could have tackled North when he caught the ball, rather than just waiting to catch it, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know, that would be pretty harsh.
Yeah, it was tough.
It's a pretty brutal throw, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I threw an intercept throw in my own 22 against France. Yeah, it wasn't good. Lost the game. Now we did like butcher some like a 3v1 overlap and stuff, but that was
definitely the reason.
That was oh no, yeah, my teammates let me know that. Went into the changing rooms like puffy, red face, devastated. It was like I watched Titanic 4 times in a row. And yeah.
God, that's even more awkward.
Yeah, I just was in the corner. To be fair, they gave me like a minute of feeling sorry for myself, and then they made a magazine cover called Intercept with my face on it.
That's the best way to
like,
deal with it.
Yeah.
Slag me immediately, please, so I can get over this.
So there's nothing worse. You're like kind of sobbing, but then also laughing, being like, "These are all pricks." Yeah, that was grim.
I don't know if the French would have that same sense of humour to do that.
Oh no, they were delighted. Yeah.
But,
oh no, about my yeah.
I want to say before you move on, I found out about La Maison, and he is not an accountant. He's working for a renewable energy company in Bayonne.
That's what it was.
Working for solar and wind power, and
Yeah.
strictly above board everything that he's up to at the moment, and staying within the confines of the law as well.
Oh, that's an anticlimax.
What a bore.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
What a bore. He's probably
Renewables.
ripped as well and no crack.
It's probably unpleasant to hug. I'd imagine.
Back to home ground. A tough night for the Irish women's team in Donnybrook on Saturday night or Friday night, beaten 51-7 by England. We touched on it earlier on, but what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, like very tough game. Coming into the second half, I think England were up by 12, and they were being put under a lot of pressure, but they were coping quite well. Some nice exit plays, but we couldn't just string phases together. And then England had a strong bench as well, and like they're now professionals. They're a team at the moment that I would have kind of picked out as Grand Slam contenders and going for 2 in a row.
You can see it physically in the difference,
and especially in even after. Like, even in the first half, it was kind of starting to tell as well. Like, their front row, right now, our scrums, I have to say, were really good. This is me as a back talking about scrums, so take that with a pinch of salt. But I thought that set piece was really strong. But just we were kind of outclassed on the day as well. And I think that's only going to get more evident as, like, the likes of France and England, who, they now have time to rest and they now have time to train with each other daily and not worry about the day job. That's gonna, I think scores like that are going to be more frequent, which is disappointing. Like you always want to close Six Nations, but that gap seems to be widening at the moment, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I watched the Irish sevens, the women's sevens this morning, and again, there's physically, I think that's where the difference is. A lot of the Kiwis and the Australian girls are professional rugby players, and they're training full time, and they look more athletic, and that's where they're dominating. The Irish girls, the skill level is incredible, and the attitude is incredible, but they're obviously not getting the time, as you said, to train and to progress. So, but it will happen.
Like the sevens now are a little bit different. So with 15s, it's purely amateur, and with sevens, it's semi-professional. So for the most part, they're in during the week 1 until 5, 6. So they are training together on a much more regular basis than the 15s. But yeah, like it would be nice to have those teams being able to fully.
Yeah, well, I suppose you can see that in the results. The sevens team reached their first ever semi-final, came 4th place after losing to America in the playoff. But yeah, they're progressing. Some of the girls there, 2 of the girls were named in the dream team for the weekend in Sydney, and I suppose if the full 15 side got the same treatment, and even if it was semi-pro, surely they'd make.
It makes a huge difference. Like any small financial injection into the women's games is huge, because there's not an awful lot there. Like we've got great sponsors now, and Griggsy's putting a lot of time, and he's a good coach and he really cares about the girls, but there's only so much you can do, before work in the morning and after work, and then on weekends as well. It's just it's hard to kind of keep. I know I'm saying England and France, but at the moment that's what we're facing in terms of Six Nations, but that's where we need to get to, and at the moment we're not quite there. And if you're amateurs playing against professionals, it's evident now on the pitch as well. And a couple of years ago that wasn't the case. We were catching up and we were doing really well. So it's disappointing to see the progress that we had made is now teetering off, and other teams are kind of climbing to new levels. Yeah.
No, it was it's a disappointing result, but one team I suppose that did, one of the Irish teams that did do very well at the weekend were the Ireland under-20s. They had a great win over England on Friday night in Cork. Huge win actually, considering the English players that they had a few full internationals already playing under-20s. Physically some huge lads, but Ireland just kept in the game and then pulled away in the last few minutes. Scott Penny for Leinster, no, you're a big fan of his, he did a great game. Harry Byrne, brother of Ross Byrne, who I think Joe Schmidt has also been raving about. There's also a scrum half there called Craig Casey from Limerick, who is quite a small guy, but having watched all the Six Nations games over the weekend, I reckon he'd a better pass than every scrum half that I saw over the weekend. Just lightning fast. He's a little general as well. He's his family, Limerick family, really steeped in rugby. His uncle played for Munster, Mossy Lawler. We spoke about him a few weeks ago, and he's Colm Tucker, famous former Ireland Lions players, his granduncle and stuff. So we were talking last week about Munster potentially not bringing through these young lads with attitude. I think he's definitely one. Didn't he?
He was he had a bit of bite about him the whole game. It was really, really good to watch. Like my mum, who, God bless her, hasn't a clue about rugby, she was like, I'm loving that scrum half. Loving it. Look at the passion. Like at one stage he got mowed down. No, to be fair, he did slow your man down, but it was a brute kind of run in, got knocked down, and it was just like, phew, came right back up again and was like, do it again, come on. It was like, it was
like when Bragg Pitt got knocked out and snatched, and then he just popped back up and wham, hit
Tyson Fury-esque, No, that was really good to see. I'm looking forward to now the under-20 Scotland game as well.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people watching.
Yeah, that was a big upset as well. So, and they celebrations afterward. It was great actually that I was in Cork as well.
Yeah.
Mixing it up and stuff in the crowd.
They got a huge crowd, a lot of young people there. So, fair play to you lads. We also asked you to vote for your Guinness Made of More Player of the Weekend, and we kept it Irish this weekend, but for next week we're going to go full international. But for this weekend, it was 2 from the under-20s, John Hodnett, the number 8, who had a great game, or Dylan Tierney-Martin, and also Ireland's Tyg Furlong and Gary Ringrose. Thanks for all your comments. The winner was John Hodnett. Fair play to you, John. Very like Sean O'Brien. Similar stature, similar kind of player.
Fair play to you, John.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Embracing the youth of Ireland. We also put up a shout for Twitter questions using the hashtag AskHOR, and here are some of your best ones. Cian O'Connor, A, what the F just happened? B, is this a Rocky Chumbawamba pressure got too much situation, or more like Pacino in Scarface having hit the top? Is Chumbawamba like, I got knocked down, I got...
Yeah, that's
get
what I
back
thought
up?
was. I didn't want to ask that because I thought, have I missed something here?
Presume it is. Well, I think we just covered what happened, Cian. Yeah, whether it's a Rocky Chumbawamba, they're the same thing, right? Or a Pacino Scarface, where he's hit the top and he's just like going out in flames. So he expects the Irish team to just be sitting at the unravel. Yeah. Who knows? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. They all just went mental.
No, this is more like Sonny Corleone has just been assassinated, and now Michael is on the rise again. You've done this to the family.
Okay.
Yeah. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting
That's what I'm
take.
thinking, yeah.
So who's Don Corleone? Schmidt.
Yeah.
And who's Michael Corleone?
His son?
Sexton.
Or Sexton could have just been killed at the weekend. It could be Joey.
It could. Yeah.
Joey's like his nephew or something. You're not my real dad.
Joe. Drop me, little teenager. Dr. John Cannon had another question. If you had to survive a zombie apocalypse and you could pick 3 other rugby players to back you up, who would you pick and what would their weapons of choice be? A lot of people I've asked are going for Sean O'Brien and a shovel.
Okay, so you've got I think you can go 2 directions with this. You either pick someone very physical, very capable of coping with zombie fights, or you can just accept that you're gonna get done eventually. You're gonna die, so you may as well pick someone you like. Mm-hmm. I'm picking you, Baz. we get our heads kicked in straight away by zombies, but at least we'd have a bit of crack.
We'd have a bit of crack. Thanks, man.
You'd have to pick someone. Well, I would pick someone slower than you. So if you were like, they're here and you ran, they get caught.
Nice, very tactical.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd have to.
But you don't want your friends to. You'd have to pick someone that like.
Someone you don't like and is slow. That's the criteria.
Yeah.
You just pick someone that's like a beast, that with a really good weapon that will just keep you alive.
Yeah.
You could just hide behind them.
Yeah, but just because you pick them, like, you haven't hired them. They don't like just do what you tell them. Defend me from the zombies.
Would Toner have like enough arm length to like machete helicopter? Would that give you?
Who's got the
like
Toner.
So with Toner's arm? Well, actually, your arm length
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Sorry, and then just machete helicopter and just stay within the.
Like spinning around with your arms out, like in primary school, you would have just done that.
Yeah.
Taking people out.
You're running into me. Yeah.
Only Dev's rolled his ankle now, so the zombies would get him straight away.
Okay. Well, then that's the slow aspect check, so like he'd get done as well then.
Imagine him limping away. You'd be like, is he becoming a zombie, or is he running from the zombie?
Should I shoot him? Should I propel arm him?
He's like trying to explain, I'm not a zombie yet.
And Joe hugs him and then releases him to bring me joy.
Oh, and it all comes full circle. Right, I think that's enough, lads. Hopefully we've cheered you up. It's been a tough weekend, but look, it's only Scotland, surely, right? Be grand. So sit down and watch Old School, have a cup of tea and have the crack. It's a good laugh. Thanks everybody for your comments and questions, for listening and for watching us on YouTube. Thanks very much, Jenny, for coming in. We'll see more of you, I'm sure.
Party on, Jenny.
We're going to hug you afterwards.
Party on, Garth.
If you're enjoying the
I'm
show,
going to
please.
totally regret that, by the way. I'll be like, oh, so uncool. Why did I do that?
I sucked you in.
Yeah.
I sucked you in.
Oh, no, just like,
You're Gareth, by
just
the way.
end it.
You
Just end
noticed
it.
that?
I'm Gareth, yeah.
Said Gareth.
I know,
yeah, so-
I've come to terms with it.
If you're enjoying the show, please do remember to subscribe and leave us a comment or a rating. We do appreciate the feedback. Thanks to everyone that was involved making the show. Thanks to Fifi on video and Paul on sound, and of course producer Pat for all your hard work. This has been Baz and Andrew's House of Rugby here on Joe together with Guinness. Party on!